In the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
In the United States of guns, the latest place that a gun showed up was at that Pastor Joel Osteen's megachurch in Texas. The attack featured an AR-style rifle, and the suspect's home in suburban Houston is where that AR-style rifle was. The house is in Conroe, Texas. If you know the area, it's more than 50 miles north of the Lakewood Church. That's where Sunday's shooting in between services went down. The shooter identified, there it is, the megachurch, Joel Osteen, you know, television and broadcast. The shooter was identified as 36-year-old Genesee Moreno, shot and killed by two off-duty officers working security at the church. Two other people were shot and wounded, including the shooter's young son, who entered the church with Moreno.
Still in critical condition, by the way.
Yeah.
That little one, 5 years old.
The shots hit just before 2 p.m. on Sunday, around the time that a lot of people were getting ready to watch the Super Bowl later. The Houston police chief, Troy Finner is his name, said Moreno entered the church wearing a trench coat and backpack and armed with a long rifle. Then began shooting and was confronted by two off-duty officers, a Houston police officer and an agent with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. They returned fire and killed her.
I wonder, do they just have those security people, off-duty officers, always on hand at that church?
Yeah, I think they
just
do.
like
They're
hang out
security
there.
people.
I guess
They're
if you
security
have the
people,
mega
yeah.
church, then you can afford security.
You ought to have a mega metal detector.
Yeah.
You got to have a lot. That's an arena. That's
Yeah, it
you
is.
can host a college basketball game in there.
Right. I mean, look at he's on a huge jumbotron. That's the way he addresses the congregation. Before being shot and killed, the suspect told officers that they'd had a bomb and were carrying a yellow in color. What is it? I'm sorry, this is worded so weird. First of all, I don't know. I don't want to break down why it's worded weird. Anyway, the Moreno said that she had a bomb. Isn't that what happened originally? The victims, as Kim mentioned, Moreno's son. But anyway, what was interesting to me about this, in addition to some of these other features of the megachurch that we've just learned about, interestingly, Moreno legally purchased the AR-15 style rifle that was used in the shooting. Also was carrying a .22 caliber rifle. From what I understand, Kim, and you can tell me because you might have the latest, but she legally purchased this weapon despite the fact that she had a history of mental illness.
Maybe
This
it's
is someone...
easier to get a gun in Texas.
She had a criminal past, multiple aliases, and she had problems psychologically that had been documented. Despite that, she was able in December to get this assault-style weapon.
So we have problems in this country. We say we're going to do something. We say, oh, it's the mental health crisis. Well, then let's do something about the mental health crisis and make rules that make it so that if you're having a mental health crisis, you don't get to have a gun. And the red flag laws that people can say, hey, if you're having a mental health crisis, even for just a short time, the police can come take your guns away so you don't do something like this.
As Deirdre says, everyone has a gun in Texas. It's
And we
true.
don't-
It's
we
like
don't do
it's like a
anything.
side order of fries down there. It's just it comes.
So I read
with-
this morning that she was going through, I guess at this church, they have lawyers or legal mediation there. And she was going through a custody issue with her ex-husband or former husband or what have you over this child that ended up with a bullet to the head. It's just the saddest situation.
Meantime, a break in a caper involving a Walgreens. This is crazy. The manager of a Chinatown Walgreens in Washington, D.C., that has been a frequent target for robbery since last summer, that manager helped orchestrate these robberies.
Oh, it's an
at
inside
least
job.
4 armed holdups at his own store.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Prosecutors are charging the manager, Michael Leroy Robinson, and his nephew in connection with robberies that authorities say came to a violent end on Sunday when a security guard hired by Walgreens shot and critically wounded one of the suspects in this conspiracy. They detail 4 robberies that authorities attribute to this group. They say that Robinson was the manager on duty for at least 4 more, including one in which a suspect hit him in the head with a gun. The man who was shot on Sunday, Kamanye Williams, 24, is still hospitalized today. Hasn't made an appearance in court yet. But the manager charged with conspiracy and with these robberies. And the problem with this, and the greater story than just the robberies, is what it's done to this neighborhood. You know, this is a town I grew up in, Washington, D.C., and now, I mean, it's been a long time since I've lived there, but like so many other communities around the country, including in the Bay Area in California, Los Angeles, once a community becomes racked by retail theft and by robberies like this, these are armed robberies, I'll remind you, businesses around that area begin to close. People start to fear that area. They don't go there to do their shopping, and that's what was happening here.
Like Oakland, too, right?
Thank you. And finally, a report revealing that Mark Meadows likely will not face charges because he's given immunity.
What?
A former state and federal prosecutor thinks that a special counsel report is indicating that Mark Meadows probably won't face trial for his involvement in the Donald Trump 2020 election trial.
No.
It seems to be given he seems to be given an immunity deal, according to this report. This is a guy who's a former state and federal prosecutor, a guy named Eric Lazan. Lazan saying that his reading of a recent New York Times report, which details a lot, indicates that there really is a deal here. Quote, reading the description here of Meadows' involvement with the special counsel, leading to the conclusion that absent a prior unreported secret agreement to plead guilty to charges, he will not face federal charges due to his extensive testimony pursuant to an immunity order.
These are people that orchestrated all of this, that
That's right.
set it all up. These are the masterminds of all this. Trump's like, what can I do? And they're like, well, you could do A, B, C, and D. And then they set it all allegedly in motion. And these are the people that are going to get off scot-free? Sister, please.
The possibility that the former president's closest White House aide, a man with unsurpassed access to Trump during the final months of his presidency, might be seeking to wriggle out of further trouble by supplying damning information to prosecutors and perhaps even testifying against Trump at trial, suggests a seemingly inescapable choice for Meadows, prison time or career suicide. That's what was written in the New York Times.
And that's what Lori says. If Meadows is given immunity, doesn't that mean he flipped on Trump?
Right. Right. And so he has that fork in the road. Neither route is a real good one for Meadows, but it appears that he flipped and he committed the career suicide as opposed to doing prison time for the former president. And that is Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.